Hey guys, we're out in the woods in North Vancouver. Beautiful little creek in the background, some shade, nice little atmosphere, perfect environment for riding the OHM Sport. It sits right in between the urban and the mountain. It's hardtail, but we've got these bigger tires, a little bit fatter, Schwalbe Super Moto-X 27.5 by 2.4 versus 2.0 on the urban model. So that extra diameter, it's going to give you some cushion, it's going to give you some improved traction and stability so that you can ride on something like this. Sort of it's hard packed, it's smooth, but it's gravelly, right? And this bike's not sliding all over the place. That's really nice. Same rims and everything. We got Alex rims, FR30, and they do have the reinforcement eyelets. Going to be a little bit stronger that way, double walled, of course. Those same awesome aluminum alloy fenders from Rack Time, same company that makes this rack. And these ones are slightly wider. I think they're 70 millimeter width, so that you do get complete coverage. Excellent extension down here. Sometimes when I'm pedaling and turning at the same time, I'm worried about hitting my toes. That hasn't been the case here. You can see plenty of room. The weight on this bike is 56.5 pounds, so it's only 1 pound heavier than their urban model, but you do get several upgrades, including this is the Supernova M99 5 LED rear light. I'm gonna go ahead and boot the bike up so you can see these in action. So hold that for just a second. Display's coming on. And then here's the M99 headlight. This is the pure model. So I think it's like 500 lumens, just incredible. Nice daytime running lights on the side.
And at nighttime, it'll automatically switch to a
oh,
more bright
man,
beam.
look at that.
So it's light sensitive, and based on the lighting conditions, the front light will change.
This bike is just very well engineered. It does come in 4 different sizes, so you can dial in fit. And to me, that's a big deal. It's not just the frame size that changes. You also have a longer stem, longer handlebars. Even the crank arms are slightly longer on the taller models. So 170 to 175 millimeter. We still got that hollow spindle right here. It's a little bit lighter weight, sealed bottom bracket, sealed headset, tapered 1.125 to 1.5 inches. So it's a little burlier. This is set up more like a mountain bike, and that means it's going to last longer. It's going to hold up better in trail conditions. Another little highlight here is the chain guide. So you can see it's mounted on that seat tube. It makes sure that you're not going to lose that chain when it's bouncing around, especially if you're in throttle mode, because this does have throttle operation. Very nice. Also have a slap guard here so that as the chain bounces around, it might not nick up this matte black frame. And we've got the Shimano Dior XT derailleur back here, 10 sprockets, 11 to 36, with Shadow Plus one-way clutch. So when you click that up, then it's not going to flop forward quite as much, which means this change isn't going to bounce around. That's something I see a lot on electric mountain bikes, so it's really cool to see it here. And then the Wellgo pedals, these are magnesium. It's a nice little upgrade. They've got adjustable pins. Sometimes the middle portion here, you can kind of pivot on it a little bit, so I have the pins raised fairly high for traction. Be careful if you're riding this. It's going to provide excellent traction, but if you slip off, you're going to cut your shins because these are fairly sharp. So this is an upgrade. There are a lot of little pieces on this bike, and they've really thought it out. You've got bottle cage bosses right here with plenty of room for it because of the new semi-integrated BionX battery. Love that. Keeps weight relatively center, but a bit forward, helps to balance out that motor. About 8.8 pounds on that motor. And yet, when we lifted the seat right here, the frame tipped forward. So this is not an especially rear-heavy design, despite having a rack, despite having these alloy fenders and everything. I'd say it's fairly well balanced, and at 56.5 pounds, only 1 pound heavier than the urban model. It's just cool. It's just a little step up. TRP Zurich hydraulic disc brakes, and as I pull that, it actually would activate regen. So BionX is one of the few electric bike systems out there, especially from a mainstream company, that actually provides the ability to regenerate and capture some of that energy. You're not capturing a lot. It's really not efficient at all if you think about it in terms of buying some food and it's shipped to your point of sale by a truck. It's burning gas, and then you go and you spend some gas buying it, and then you eat that food and you digest it and burn some calories in the process, and then you pedal and you burn some more calories, and you lose some of that energy in terms of heat, and then it transfers that into electricity and stores it chemically in the battery. That's a huge waste of energy, so you'd never really want to do that. really what it does is it helps to reduce wear on your brake pads. And it might give you a fun challenge. If you live somewhere that doesn't have mountains like this, where you're not gonna be climbing, but you want to get a workout, well, you can turn up regen. There are 4 levels. So we come over here to the button pad, really easy to reach, plus minus, 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 minus. So that's going to be really hard to pedal with right now. And the motor is very capable. Peak output of 50 Newton meters. So for a hub motor, that's great. There are some mid drives that claim like, oh, it's 75 Newton meters, Bosch CX in particular. But that's in part because you're leveraging the cassette and all those different gears. So if you go to a super low gear, and then the motor's going to have a mechanical advantage there, and you're going to pedal, that's all great. It does give you some torque, but this is really quite capable and very impressive, I must say, because it's so quiet. It's near silent, whereas a lot of the mid drives produce some noise. Also, they're pulling on that chain, those sprockets, and your derailleur, so you end up with more drivetrain wear. And I know people who've had the Bosch system, for example, and had to replace their chain, even had to replace their derailleur. So it's completely separate system. You just kind of pedal, do your own thing. The motor is completely independent, and it has a high range of, I would say, a good range of high performance. It's not like some of the internally geared compact motors that they're really optimized for a certain RPM. This, because it's so wide, you get leverage, you get a mechanical advantage. And they've also managed to keep it skinny enough to use traditional spokes. So you do get the comfort element of regular spokes. So it's a perfect balance, and it uses a torque sensor that's part of this 12 millimeter axle. So the system works quite well, and I feel like they've kept the cabling on this bike really clean and just tucked away. So we're over here on the left-hand side. You can see there's a disconnect point for the motor, so if you need to do some service, even the brake wire right here, I guess it's not a wire, this is hydraulic. So there's the quad piston Zurich TRP calipers, 180 millimeter rotors, really nice. Got excellent heat dissipation on those. If we come back up here to the cockpit, you can see the levers, 3-finger with finger adjust. So if you're out there and maybe you've got some gloves on and you're cruising around, you want to bring those levers in on a cold day, you totally can. Or if you're someone who's a little bit smaller and you're not riding, in this case I'm riding the large 20.5 inch frame, you can bring those in because maybe you have smaller hands and they've got that ball at the end. That's part of the speed pedelec. I guess while we're on the topic of that, these bikes are spec'd at Class 2, which means 20 mile per hour top speed, pedal assist, and throttle. That's Class 2. Class 1 would be no throttle. Throttle only activates once you're up to 1 or 2 miles per hour, so there's a little bit of a safety feature. So if you're moving the bike and you bump that, it's not going to take off on you, which works well enough here. But if you want, they can also upgrade this with software to be Class 3. So then you get a Class 3 sticker, top speed 28 miles per hour assist, still 20 miles per hour throttle. It's a pretty sweet option. I find myself using the throttle quite a bit here because the torque sensor, it requires more energy. It's fluid and it's responsive, but it's not like a cadence sensor where you just move your feet and it's like on off. It's much more dynamic, and I think natural is a good way to describe that. So anyway, relatively comfortable here. We got 100 millimeter travel on this air fork. We've got a compression clicker that does go all the way to lockout. We've got rebound adjust down there. I was talking about boost and the through axle. There is quick release on the front wheel, so that's going to make servicing it a little bit easier, or maybe reducing weight. 7.4 pounds on that battery pack, and who knows how much the wheel weighs, but it's certainly a little bit heavier with the bigger tires and everything like that. And sometimes that means you can turn the bar like this and lay it down flat in the back of your car if you're in that sort of a situation. I think the most impressive thing to me is just how quiet those fenders are, despite being relatively large, and part of it's because they're connected on this rack with support points right there. And this is, of course, rack time compatible. It's a rack, standard gauge tubing on the sides. You do have a little kind of a triangle window here, so you could use bungee cords if you wanted, or connect panniers and have them stay on really securely. And then that light is just kept very clear from a trunk bag or panniers on the side, and that's part of what makes this such a capable commuter. I haven't seen any full suspension BionX bikes, because when you have a hub motor that's extra weight, you get this unsprung weight. It's just not ideal. You're putting extra work and force into suspension. So they all tend to be hardtails like this, but it's relatively comfortable with this setup, in part because of the tires and the suspension, but also because you can upgrade this. This is 30.9 millimeters on the seat post, you can upgrade that and get a body float. They actually offer them through the company, and they also offer a folding lock. So there's a lot of thought that went into how can we make this more comfortable if you want, or give you some little extras and just make it look. Look how clean it is. Like very little going on in the way of branding, and the color choices here in this gray, they matched it with the battery pack. It looks pretty good. Even like a little bit of an ohm thing going on in the bottom. They didn't spell out sport, they just put S. And then this little, I guess it's a little window port on the side of the down tube. You can ask them to connect up a USB charging port on the side. So that's another little thoughtful extra that they've done. Just so many things. We've got 3 riser stacks, 10 millimeter, 1 5 millimeter. Those stems, they come in different sizes. I think this one's 80 because I'm on a large frame. Ergonomic grips from Ergon saddle. Those are all little extras that cost money, but that you notice as you're riding. And then I love that in addition to having like a kind of a swiveling display here, you can adjust this up. I think this one's over tightened. There we go. You can adjust that up if you want. There's also the light mount that's part of that stem. So it keeps the light out of the way. It gives you plenty of options for how you want to aim this, and whether you want to use this display, the phone app, they have a smartphone app, or you can take the display off and navigate completely with this ring. So there's power, lights, it shows a battery indicator here with 5 dots. There's 4 dots over here for the level of assist. So as you go up, those dots increase. You go down to 0, then it goes into neutral. So that's just like ride it like a bicycle and use the lights and the display or whatever. And then you can go down to those 4 levels of regen, and they blink like that. That means regen. And that's what it looks like over here. I love that. And then of course the throttle, probably my favorite part of this. There are very few bikes now that it seems like you can get cheap bikes that have a throttle, and it's like a twist throttle or a big paddle thing. This is just so elegant, and it's easy to reach, but it doesn't really put your trigger shifters out of the way or collide with them. And same with the brake lever. It's just so clean. And we imagine you take that display off, this cockpit becomes really beautiful. It doesn't stand out as much. Even got a little bell here. I guess back to the visuals, the thing that does stand out is the motor casing, because it's large. And part of me is like, oh, is it going to take some wind from the side? Yeah. It's your rear wheel, so it's not going to impact steering. And I've done some messing around with like those race bikes and stuff that have completely filled in aero wheels. And you totally notice it because the bikes are relatively lightweight, and it's usually only the rear wheel for that reason, so it doesn't impact steering. Just kind of interesting. Then we come to the other side of the bike. You can see it's not really that busy up front. A lot of these electric bikes have tons of cables going everywhere, and in this case, the motor inhibitor regen switch is only on the right brake lever, not the left, and it's kind of nice if it was on both, but then you end up with extra wires. And I like how clean this is. It's just tucked right in, integrated through the frame, and that's it. Maybe then they kind of protrude below, not at the bottom bracket, but just behind. So it's, I think, a little bit better protection. You got the Plesher ESGE kickstand. This is another gripe for me. If you walk the bike backwards or bump the crank, it collides with the kickstand. I prefer that the kickstand be way back here if they could, but I understand this was pretty busy. There's already a lot of wires and stuff, and you don't want to impact the braking mechanism on the bike or make it too difficult to get to those pedals. So I feel like, that's a standard center mount. That makes sense. And again, I love that they squeezed in bottle cage bosses. It's just a delighter for me. Hey puppy, how's it going? Got an adventurer. So I got the charger over here. Really impressed with this thing. It's only a pound. It's super light, really compact, and it puts out 3.45 amps. So a lot of electric bike chargers only put out 2 amps. Bosch has one. It's like for their power packs, and it's a 4 amp charger, but it's much larger than this. It's like 1.7 pounds. And then of course the battery, we talked about that, 7.4 pounds, 48 volts, 11.6 amp hours. So it's over 500 watt hours. It's definitely above average in terms of capacity. Just unlock it, pull out. I love how it just, you're not worried about clinking it into the frame and scratching the casing or anything like that. It's got these little rubber pads on it. And I think down here too, in that swivel point, so you don't get the vibration that I've heard on some of the other batteries. It doesn't really have like a built-in handle, but you do have some indentation along the side, so it fits nicely into my hand. So, you know, if you're gonna be porting this bike around, I would take off maybe the wheel, definitely the battery to reduce the weight a little bit, take it down some. You just set it right back in like this. So listen for the click. There we go. So now you know it's secure and you're basically ready to ride. I just love how you can charge the battery on or off the bike using the exact same port. I was curious about this. I was like, oh, is there a cap? Or, you know, some batteries, it's like the port's down here and you worry about it getting dirty and wet. But this one's up high. Everything else on the bike is rated really well against water, like sealed cartridge on that headset, for example. And then I noticed there wasn't like a button that shows like how full the battery is, like those little light up things you see on some other bikes. And Michael was like, oh, actually, if you just touch that, look at that. It's touch sensitive and it shows you how full the battery is. So this one, what does that mean? It's orange.
So at orange, it shows you're between 20 and 70%.
Wow.
So if it was red, then it would show you're below 20%. You've got to plug it in.
Yeah.
And then if you're over 80%, then it's going to show green.
Okay. It's very cool. And then as far as the battery port, do you have to worry too much about that, getting junk in there, or do you have a cap or something?
This is protected from dust and water as well. So it has an IP67 rating.
Wow.
Which is the same rating as an iPhone.
Okay.
So this
so don't toss it in your tub.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
It can withstand everything except being submerged.
Michael, do you guys sell additional batteries? Like if it breaks or something?
Yeah, if an owner wants an extra battery, we sell replacement batteries at $800.
Okay, and I noticed it's kind of the same. Is this the same color and everything?
Yeah, it's the same color for the battery packs. So there's one color and one size.
Yeah.
And they're all 48 volt to 11.6 amp hour.
Sweet. And BionX has been around for a long time. OHM's been around since 2005, so it's like 12 years because I'm filming this in 2017. Being able to work with a larger company like that's been around, I feel like there's a good kind of a sense of like trust here. They have a pretty good warranty as well. It's like 3 years and then 5 years on the frame. Yeah, OHM's a company that's been around doing a good job for a while, and the battery pack, that's one of the most expensive parts of the bike. So you're getting a system here that's pretty proven, that's really well integrated. So we're back to the display. There are actually 3 different display layouts. The one we're looking at here is basic, but if I hold the right button over here, it switches to kind of advanced, and that just gives you power. And then regen, there's like a little chart that sort of shows it happening in real time. Imagine it's measuring like watts. If you hold it one more time, this is like the data view. So it shows everything without infographics, just your speed. Of course, you can change that from miles per hour to kilometers per hour. Trip timer, clock, odometer, trip distance, assist level, average speed, assist percentage, and battery percentage. And that's great. Percentage is much more precise and I think useful on a bike than just like 5 bars or even 10 bars. 10 bars is great. That's 10% increments versus a lot of the other systems, even Bosch, where it's just like 5 bars. That's 20% steps. So, you know, it's nice. They fit a lot into a relatively compact display panel that's easy to read. And it is transflective. So if you're in super bright light, it's still visible, even though, you know, the backlighting is going to be kind of dim by comparison to the sun. I super appreciate that. So coming back to the main display here, if we hold that and then it goes up to the basic display, I'm gonna arrow over to the right until we get to, there it is, setup, and then you can hold down that light gray button, and this is where you can make some of those adjustments. So you can change the language, brightness, units, start screen, clock adjust, tire circumference. It's pretty cool. And then hold it again for a couple seconds, and it takes you right out. So now we're back to kind of the main display and maybe ready to ride. And even though the positioning on the kickstand is a little bit in the way of that crank arm, you can see the scraping there from where the pedal was banging. I've noticed that it doesn't rattle a lot, even when I'm on bumpy terrain. So I'm gonna take a little ride here, take it all the way up to the highest level of assist, and then do some pedaling. Nice. I gotta shift up because I'm not providing enough torque now to get us beyond 14 miles per hour. There we go. 2-way trigger shifters, SLX. flying here. Braking with one hand, no problem. Always nice to be confident in those brakes when you're going a little bit faster on slippery terrain. Look at this, found a big bridge. I'm gonna go up this hill using just the throttle. We're struggling right now. The motor needs a little bit of assistance. It's fairly steep. There we go. I'm giving just a little help. And now I think we're gonna see the speed increase. So that's an interesting example. You know, the motor, I would still consider this to be one of the strongest or highest torque hub motors that's kind of legally rated, 500 watts to, 750 watt peak. But when you're going at low speed, if you're just relying completely on that throttle, you might still encounter a situation where you need to help out a little bit. It doesn't depend on what gear you're in. There's only really that one ratio for the hub motor to that larger wheel diameter, and then plus the larger tires. Turning it around, let's head back. Definitely impressed with those fenders. I mean, they don't rattle. Like, I'm not dealing with a lot of noise as I would have expected. Pretty stable with the handles. Michael just told me they have touch-up paint that comes with every bike. It's pretty cool. Also, you are positioned right next to that motor, and I'm really going to be working it. We're going to go uphill, and I just want you to listen for it, okay? First, I'm going to do pedal assist only, so you'll see me pedaling, and then you'll hear the motor probably really faintly. I'm also seeing on this side that the kickstand is adjustable. It's pretty nice. Tight, not rattling a lot. Listen for those sounds, like is the fender rattling, or what are you hearing? There's great power, really quiet, and I like that regen feature. I notice when I'm braking occasionally, it just gives you that extra slowdown that I like.
sweet bike path.
Hey, so this is Michael DeVisser, founder of the company, and he is hanging out with the OHM Urban, right? So lighter color, a little bit narrower tires, doesn't have, well, this is his model, right? So you set the light up with the M99. Yeah, normally it would just have the V6S, 165 lumens versus these ones. You know, why did you upgrade that?
I do a little bit of riding at nighttime, so I wanted the most powerful light I could put on there.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, and this is kind of like an upgraded model here with the bigger tires and everything, and that one only has 3 LEDs on the backlight. Otherwise, these are very comparable bikes, and I noticed that you've got a body float, a couple different springs here for your weight, you know?
Yep, that body float's tuned to my weight and gives me a nice amount of spring while I'm riding. It absorbs a lot of the shocks from all the bumps on the road.
It's like a full suspension feel.
Exactly.
That's sweet. And this was the other upgrade we talked about before. It's the Abus Bordeaux Light combination lock. You can take that, and because these bikes both have quick release front wheels, it's like putting that through the down tube and the wheel, and then maybe getting yourself like a seat leash, so it's a little cable that you can string into that so no one takes your seat, especially if you have the body float. Michael, this has just been a ton of fun. I appreciate you taking us out into a beautiful location, you know, peaceful.
Sure. Good to have you here.
Yeah, it's neat to see like the perfect environment for something like the OHM Sport, where this is off-road. You know, we're not necessarily mountain biking. That would be like your mountain model. But, you know, I'm glad I have those bigger tires today. So this is cool. For the full write-up on this, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. That includes specs like standover and stuff. I measured the medium-sized frame, so they are going to vary a little bit. And I think you guys have your own charts and stuff, a little bit more information. Otherwise, have fun out there, ride safe, especially if you get the Class 3 bike. Yeah, a lot of fun. So I was at the OHM factory store checking things out, and look who walked in. This is Martine.
From Squamish.
From Squamish, and not just from Squamish, but you were commenting or emailing me.
Yeah, I contacted you telling you had to come up and try the 2017 models.
And I listened.
Yes, you
right? Yeah.
That's amazing.
This was just really lucky. But I do listen. I try to answer the comments. And you know, what got you interested about OHM? Like, what was?
I sadly have a little bit of a bum neck, but living in a biking community, and I live at the top of a very, very big hill, that going to get groceries and stuff on a bike, so.
Yeah.
So I thought about trying a pedal assist, or pedelec as you call them.
Yeah.
And we tried it on some of the Gulf Islands in BC, where whenever you get off a ferry, there's a really steep hill.
Yes, right. I hiked up that yesterday to get to my car. I missed the ferry, but then, yeah, anyway.
And
I know what you mean.
45K an hour up those hills.
Yeah.
And it's very responsive, especially if you get into the third assist.
Yeah.
I didn't go into the fourth too often. I wanted to work out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just flying up those hills. My husband was on his regular bike, and I was thinking we need a tow rope.
Yeah. So come on, hurry up, right? That's awesome.
And yeah, so now I'm trying to debate between getting the mountain bike, because we have mountain bike trails in Squamish.
Yeah.
But I figure I'll probably like 75% road and 25% trail.
Well, there's the sport one that I was going to look at, and so it's got the bigger tires. They aren't exactly like knobby, but great suspension, and you got the rack and the fenders and everything. That's the big trade-off, right, for hauling stuff.
That's the trade-off, but Liam was telling me that maybe they will have a rack that they can put onto the mountain
like
bike.
a beam rack or something?
Yeah, something that there's a center bar going up to it
from right there?
Yeah.
Let's go look at it. Yeah, let's go. So here's the mountain bike, the M, And you're right, there's this connector point right here, so maybe they could, I don't know, I haven't talked to Liam about it, but it's just so fun meeting people in real life and saying hey, so thank you for
no problem.
sharing your excitement with us.
Thanks for coming up and checking them out.
We did it! Well, great. Have fun out there. We'll see you on the trail.
Yeah, this is good too.
Oh, the body float.
Bikes.
I know, right? Like, I love the comfort.
I tried the Urban without it on Denman Island.
And it was a little rough.
And I rode off the seat when I was on the trails.
Yeah, you got to stand. I have a sensitive knee, so for me, being able to actually give my knees a break, but be comfortable is a big deal.
And it's quiet.
Super quiet.
And the response. Squamish just had its first off-road triathlon last weekend, so I rode it there because I was manning one of the volunteer booths.
Which one did they give you a demo bike, or what are we talking about?
The Urban.
You had the Urban, okay.
Yeah. So I had it for almost a week, and all these people were trying it, and everybody was coming back with big smiles going, we need one of these.
Yeah.
So even the super fit, who do things old school.
Yeah, and going up the mountain, you said that maybe in Squamish, which is between Vancouver and Whistler, so it's kind of mountain community.
There's a lot of climb trails.
So people out there are more accepting of e-bikes, like it's coming around?
It's starting to come around. Starting to see it a little bit more often.
Awesome. Well, thank you. This is great.